very good evening and welcome to this edition of The Fourth Estate. Charles Mongo Shampag is my name. And tonight, I have a panel of journalists discussing some of the major events during the week and specifically focusing on political events in the main opposition political party, the Forum for Democratic Change, and its offshoot new formation. But we'll be looking at politics in a very broad sense. So we'll be tackling other political parties and other political formations in the country. We'll also be discussing the state of security in Kampala following the murder of Archie Rwego just the other night by Panga House and murder him when his wife was watching. My panel is 80%. Is it 80%? 60%? About 60% women. Do we make 20%?
Maybe 75.
75% or 75 to 80% women. Let me start with Barbara Among. Barbara, very welcome.
Thank you, Charles.
You don't need a lot of introduction. You've been here before.
Yes, thank you and good evening, viewers.
You now do journalism training, you do consultancy.
And I still write.
And you still write. Very nice to have you.
Thank you.
We have Rosbel Kagumire. Rosbel is an activist, is a blogger. You're a social media activist, are you?
Everything.
Yeah, everything. Very nice to have you, Rosbel.
Thank you.
You spend all your time traveling across the world.
Even within the country.
Even within the country. Very nice to have you.
Thank you.
I have Agatha Atweire. Agatha, very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles.
Agatha is a journalist and is a lawyer trainee. Would that be accurate? Would that be correct? He's a law student at Makerere University. Very nice to have you, Agatha.
Thank you, Charles.
And I have Bernard Oponya. Bernard is a journalist for many years. TV, you've done print, and now you work with NTV.
Yeah.
Very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles.
I want to start with you, Barbara. I know from many years ago you covered the Forum for Democratic Change. Just this ended week, Patrick Oboy Amuriat Power made a grand homecoming with his return to Teso. And one of the things that observers are pointed to is the fact that at his reception were people who have openly or are believed to be with the new formation of General Monto. But at the same time, you also have a press conference happening on the western side of the country, in Imbarara, of former FDC leaders in Ankole sub-region, 60 of them, announcing they have parted ways with their part of the FDC and they are joining new formation. What does that mean for the broader politics of this country? Is there an interpretation?
When we look at FDC, unfortunately, we're just looking at the current events. But the disagreements within the Forum for Democratic Change, the happenings within Forum for Democratic Change, you need to take it back, I think, to 2011, 2012, when the first mistake they made was when Salam Musumba, who was the Vice President of Forum for Democratic Change, at the time, was contesting to join the East African Assembly, that's the East African Parliament. And they completely disagreed. They failed to send a candidate at the time, and that's how Bukasambide came into the picture. And that's how the FDC, the Democratic Party, took that slot at the time. And then also, another incident that happened was when Nandala Mafabi disagreed with Major General Mugisha Muntu. And also, we were glossing over that, and we didn't pay attention to that. But it was building at the time. So the recent mishaps that we've had, FDC failing in Bujiri, FDC failing in Arua, FDC failing in Kampala, and then also General Mugisha Muntu leaving FDC. It's just basically the climax of what's been happening within FDC. What's been happening within FDC is that there was that excitement that came with an opposition political party that was seen to be strong, that was seen to be, for the first time challenging President Museveni, and President Museveni paying attention to that. So what happened was that the formation of this party, no one paid attention to it. The roots of this party, the foundation of this party, no one paid attention to it. When PAFO, which was the parliamentary PAF was Parliamentary Action Forum.
Advocacy
Advocacy Forum, sorry,
Forum.
yes. When it came, and that's the foundation, that should have been the foundation of FDC. But then that was not transferred to FDC. FDC kind of, it's hanging. It's around an individual. It was never rooted into...
I thought you had, Rosebell, there is talk about the reason Montu decided to leave. The official explanation was two tendencies developed within the Forum for Democratic Change. One was the tendency that favored protests, and I think Dr. Kizabes just called it to make the country ungovernable through civil disobedience. Then the other tendency was the Muntu tendency of structure building. But actually, like Barbara says, these tendencies are all within the Forum for Democratic Change. At the formation of FDC, that La Bonita conference that birthed the FDC.
Bonita.
Bonita.
Yes, that was Bonita.
Bonita, yes.
Someone
Bonita on Entebbe Road.
2005.
Yes. You had one group emerging out of reform agenda. And then you had what would be called the elite group of the Parliamentary Advocacy Forum, or PAFO, which PAFO itself had grown from the Young Parliamentarians Association. So a group remained and formed PAFO from that association, and then the other group somehow ended up, I think, rejoining President Yoweri Museveni and the NRA mainstream. They were the kind of rebels. So you have had that conflict within the FDC. People like Betty Kamya, who left a little bit earlier. You had the late, not Opoka, the late administrator. There's a group that belonged to administrator. Yeah, I remember the name. Those have failed to get reconciled. Some people will tell you that it's actually healthy for a political party to have different thinking.
Exactly.
Obviously, it hasn't worked in FDC's favor.
Then it's not about the tactics, because clearly what we are pointing to, or the reason they are pointing to, is about tactics. And a tactic should not divide people, because each political party at each turn has deploys different tactics in order to address the challenges before them, the political challenge before them. So whoever says that they want to build structures but they can't do civil disobedience is lying, because even across, whether you look across Africa, the genesis of political parties and fighting for power has always been a mix. You mix tactics at every turn. So I don't buy into the idea that what is dividing FDC is about tactics. I think there are deep-seated issues of power struggle that have to be, dealt with. When you have General Muntu, who comes out and one of the first statements when he's interviewed after making a new party is like, I have actually dreams of being a president of this country. So it seems that when you see last year, 2016 elections, him tussling out with Dr. Besigye, and Dr. Besigye coming, being the person who ends up on the ballot once again. You see a political party struggling with transition in itself. As the nation struggles with transition, FDC as a party has struggled a lot with transition. Okay. But also when we see power in the emerging cracks right now, when you say someone is in the west and another party is in the east, then you see those increasing cracks. And can we actually have a party that brings a nation together, like real, across tribal lines, across regional lines? Because for a long time, Besigye as a candidate seemed to bring everybody to him. But then when it came to actually a party that reflects that power, has struggled a lot.
Agatha, let me come to you. I know you follow developments within the Forum for Democratic Change very, very closely.
Yes.
And this new group are called New Formation. How can they survive if they are only recruiting from one another?
But I don't know why you're saying they are only recruiting from one another. And that takes me to the history they are talking about of tactics, the issue being of tactics. The belief has always been that, at least on the Muntu's group, that the reason they have failed to take power is because Besigye only appeals to one group of people, the radicals. Andrew Manda is the one who calls them that. That there's this group that doesn't like radicalism, that doesn't like going on the streets and fighting. And they think that group is actually makes up some of the 40% people that don't go to the vote. So Muntu wanted the party to have both tactics.
Approaches.
Yes, so that we will tap into both this and that. The last time I asked him about that, he said, even defiance cannot survive without organization. In the Arab Springs, where people overwhelmed governments through that, it was organized. You would have a group go to the streets and another keep looking for food, because otherwise you won't sustain them. So the belief was that Besigye has increasingly appealed to only one side, which cannot make up the majority too. And they think that one side is mainly in our urban centers. And for you to take power, which is their ultimate objective, is you have to appeal to a larger majority. So if Montu's belief could not be contained within the FDC, he thought, let me go outside, and he's not looking at recruiting just from the FDC. The people that he's recruiting from the FDC are the people that think like him, feel the FDC has followed one path that has not helped us gain what we want. So let's, and me, I had thought they were handling it well.
Agatha, the question, the reason I was putting this question to you, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the presidential election results,
yes,
the opposition combined, with a significant contribution from the FDC and the person of Dr. Kizza Besigye, and the rest of the opposition, share about less than 40%.
Yes.
Less than 40%. Now you have a major split in the biggest political party that people had thought, because this came out of the NRM, unlike the traditional Uganda People's Congress, the Democratic Party, and then the smaller ones that emerged and nobody knows where exactly they are. They haven't had a significant impact. Or maybe the Conservative Party, Justice Forum Party, and then you have this large bunch of other political parties that are not significant in the national power play. But when FDC splits to create new formation, you do not have any significant break, at least so far, and it's more than a month, coming from the NRM or those who were hanging on the fence to join them. What you see is 60 of the FDC. You basically...
you see, Charles,
Yes.
see, Charles, the reason why we're having that and why I was bringing all this background and all that is that we do not actually have what we call political parties in this country. We just have a group of people coming together, and then there's someone they're rallying behind that person, and then when they're tired of that person, they go to the next person. We do not have, because what's a political party? What's the process of forming a political party? If we look back, okay, and say, FDC,
A new formation
what
is
is
not
it?
a
What
political
is it
party,
standing on?
I
What is it that
can tell you,
beyond President Museveni?
Agatha, I believe you know that new formation will eventually gravitate into a political party.
So you
Yes.
don't expect
Yes,
us
but
to
not
cross into something that's
and not
yet a
long from
political
now,
party.
before the year ends, before this year ends, and we have 2 months to the end of the year, there will be something.
So maybe those defections will happen after it becomes.
Charles, there was
Where are we having
Okay.
the new formation?
Yes.
What's the new formation about? Beyond President Museveni, what else?
Yes.
What should these people
Charles,
do?
Charles.
What's the thinking behind these political parties? Which is what is killing FDC. That beyond Kizza Besigye, beyond President Yoweri Museveni, what else is there to hold this together?
Let me throw that.
my question is-
Let me just throw that to Bernard Oponya. Bernard, I have had, as a journalist, I've taken the responsibility to look at the documentation that forms these that we call our political parties. The DP is long history, 1954, I think. The Uganda people, yes, the Uganda People's Congress has a very solid foundation as a political party. The Forum for Democratic Change, there are people whom I know, and we can mention some of them. People like Augustine Ruzindana, people like Mugisha Muntu himself, people like not so much Amanya Mshega. Amanya Mshega was much in Arusha. People like David Purkol, people like Yona Kanyomozi, spent sleepless nights working out a documented, solid foundation in terms of what its ideology should be, what its outlook should be, working out the paper, doing the paperwork, long before Kizza Besigye came back from South Africa.
Yes.
Then you have had repeatedly, during Kizza Besigye's presidency, during Mugisha Muntu's presidency, they have published or launched party platforms.
There was something called Leap Forward.
The Leap Forward, yes,
Yeah.
which was the new party platform. So those documents actually do exist. If you ask, did the FDC take the time to do the foundation in the manner other political parties are created? They have done benchmarking with the Ghanaian, in Ghana they have done benchmarking with, I think the Conservatives in the UK. They've done all that all over and they've been helped along the way by different
Charles,
information.
don't even
Now,
labor.
yeah.
Me actually I think the biggest problem with political parties in Uganda is in the new way after the Museveni era, it has been individual merit. Because all those documents you refer to, people are, the way people came up in the past, like from the election around 96, parties have not really been there. Because for you to be a party candidate, there should be structures and so on. You're brought up, you're sort of like babied up and babysat to. The party supports you. But in this case, for example, in the last election, how much did FDC give its candidates to campaign, parliamentary candidates?
How much did it have to give them?
There was nothing. I mean, so people are basically going out there, trying to get to positions, using their own resources, individual effort. Just like when the president came under the NRM, the movement, which, of course, they couldn't even define it properly. They say it was a political system. Yet it was actually a political formation. Like, but they say movement is a political system, yet it wasn't. It was just something. So it is individual merit. And then also FDC, all these problems, because FDC, after trying from 2005 up to now, I think they thought the process of coming to power would take a shorter time. So whenever there's an election, there's frustration. And you know they have lost people like Martin Wandera, who is now a civil servant, director of labor and minister of gender. The others who have gone, people like Onzima, who is state minister in the vice president's office. I don't know whether anybody even knows that position exists. Alice Onzima is there. He's the state minister in the vice president's office. He used to be an FDC member in Maracha.
Yes.
Actually, he said he's one who puts the creation of the district, Maracha district. So along the way, there are frustrations. So people, even in 2012 when Mafabi contested with Muntu, you remember that quarrel? There was a committee which was formed. I don't know whether they came up with a report.
They did.
The report, they came up with the report.
They did, like this last Rakafo's.
Yeah, so I don't know whether that report informed anything. You remember the document that Munini Mulera wrote from Canada, why I'm leaving FDC.
Yes.
He was saying the same things we're fighting against in NRM is what was now coming up in FDC. And it's the same thing, individual merit, because we find here some people think that without basically FDC cannot stand. The same thing without Museveni, NRM cannot stand.
But I
So I
have
think
a
we should go back,
question.
parties need to go back to the way parties are supposed to operate.
Yeah.
Which I think, of course, there was a time when parties were not there for a long time, almost 15 years from around 96 onwards. You remember there was that law where it said you're supposed to be at your headquarters. Couldn't go out campaign. So parties, although the argument, of course, also is interesting, because you do expect the president to allow you to function properly, so that you can.
But should it be the legit of the president?
They keep on saying that we were stopped from mobilizing.
I think that when we fail to see, I think he brings very important point about the history of political parties in this country, in where we have that time where you are not actually, there's no room whatsoever to be a political party, and suddenly in 2005, it's like, there you have it. But even when we say we have political party, what is the environment for political parties when today FDC cannot access Bududa to take relief, to be able to actually take part in civil activities that you can, and the ever existence of a threat, that political threat. We cannot only look inwards, we have to look at what kind of environment has been there and why are people gravitating towards individual merit. When new information came out, for people online, the Twitter army, they call it, they said that, the Twitterati said that Muntu appeals to people who have family in NRM and are still scared of anything going, radical formation happening. So some people are afraid of radical changes of this country, and some are not, and some are like, let's have new politics, and you see that kind of appeal of people who are, I think the kind of people who we've been in our chairs and waiting, hoping that the working class in Kamocha, in Kiseka market, as they tussle it out with the status quo, we are very happy working within the status quo. So we want a candidate who really understands our comfort within the status quo. And that's not how things are going to change. But also, how are you going to change a country when you have 78% of the people, they are post-1986 class? We say, as long as you're from the class of 1986, you're going to have a hard time bringing power to this country. You will be a good player, but we have to look forward the fact that the electorate is so young and looking for something new.
Do we make a mistake? Do we make a mistake, especially as journalists, academic analysts, and commentators, to focus on these challenges? Well, challenge is not the right word. To focus on these squabbles within the small opposition than appreciating the broader political environment in the country and ask, what does it mean? Because I don't think even the NRM can sleep on the laurels and be comfortable with where they are. If they are, I think that's problematic. If they are not, then shouldn't the thinking be broadened to ask what exactly is going on in our politics? And another maybe subset to that question is, do we make a mistake to focus a political discussion in this country through the lenses of political parties, which many people believe is a Western creation and not organic within our political structuring?
I thought we actually tried to look at the context of this, and that's why Bernard was talking about the environment they work in. And you are asking, is it up to Museveni to allow political parties
to function properly?
It wouldn't be up to him if we were in a democracy that we thought, when the multi-party system was returned, that we thought would work. If you let them mobilize, if you let them, because I was talking to someone recently about the new formation, and he was saying, I do not see how it will act differently from FDC, because you have two major constraints to political parties growing up in this country. And one is this state machinery that will not let anyone build structures on the grassroots. And two is the resources. And I think that will be the biggest constraint of the new formation.
To give money.
Because while Besigye was a good mobilizer, I don't think Muntu is. And he will struggle. So when we are talking about that, I think we are looking at the broader picture of politics. And the reason we talk about political parties is we are in a multi-party system. And there's always a platform that we say, okay, maybe this we are going to rally, or it is going to rally people behind it, and we create the change that we need in this country. I've seen people wonder about Bobi Wine's
people power.
And him as a person, no one knows his plan, his game plan, or what he's up to. He says, today I'm not forming political parties, and you wonder how he's going to continue growing as just one person. If you don't have, I think, an umbrella of putting everyone under so that you fight from one united front, I don't know how that is going to work, and I think it's something we need to watch. So I think we look at political parties because they're the groups we think are playing, and we don't want to look at individuals. They've been talking about people, you've heard about cultism in this country, of following an individual, which I think is a bad thing. What if that individual dies, and what happens? So if you have a political party that has built structures and systems, and you are sure that even if this is not in place tomorrow, we have something to build on to, I think it is ideal.
Let me throw this, Barbara, we'll pick it up after a short commercial break, but let me throw this out there. By 1980, going into the 1980 elections, yes, we'd come from a bit of turbulence in the immediate, during the Min era, where parties had been banned. So, functional of political organization through political parties in this country, history will tell us, has only had brief episodes, sporadic episodes. At the time of independence, when you have UPC, DP, you know, from the KY National Congress, and then the formation of UPC, and then the Democratic Party, leading up to independence. And immediately after independence, within a short period of about 2 years, 1964, you have disruption. Then 1966, you have the crisis. By 1970, you have a coup. So political parties haven't actually had the opportunity to grow. From 1970 to 1980,
there was that election.
when you have an election, actually 1970 to 1979, then you have those elections of the UNLF. Parties function very briefly, leading into the 1980 elections. Then you go back to war.
The Bush.
By 1986, the entire country is singing UPC everywhere. If people remember those songs of the UPC,
Yes.
UPC was as dominant as
1980.
the NRM is today. But you have a Yoweri Museveni who has no structure, has no organization behind him, has himself as an individual, builds the structure.
Calls
that is
himself NRM.
yes, no, create something called UPM.
UPM.
PM.
But
It was
UPM was
at the
only a
time.
vehicle that ran for a very short period of time leading up to the elections. But he was telling you, even during that process, that election, that his plans, his eyes were already set on going to the bush. So how does somebody tell me that you need to allow the political parties some silver platter, some soft landing to be able to challenge what appears to be a behemoth called the National Resistance Movement? Let's pick this up after a very short commercial break. You're still watching The Fourth Estate, and we're discussing politics in this country with journalists Barbara Mong, Rosebel Kagumere, Agatha Atiri, and Bernard Oponye. We have gone a lot into history because I think to discuss an event of the president of the Forum for Democratic Change going back to Soroti the other day, or the defection.
What do you mean going back to Soroti? I've not understood.
Had he left Soroti?
No, it was a homecoming for him
It was a
since he
homecoming for
became
him.
president of the Forum for
Which is a
Democratic
common
Change.
thing in Uganda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he went back to his home turf in Teso sub-region, actually not just Soroti, home turf, and it was received quite well with
It's a way of
very
showing
large
political,
crowd.
political
Yes, he's trying to
muscles
show,
really that
his
I
political
have a
muscle and his
following, yeah.
constituency.
Yeah.
But Barbara, if you look at the history of political parties that we're discussing now, because FDC has split into two, you can't say that you have had a political party that has functioned as a political party for a reasonable period, long enough, for it to show how politics functions under multipartism or how they don't function. So this and the questions you're raising about FDC and what's happening within the FDC, how does it fit into the broader political environment of this country?
But well, Charles, you like you've correctly said, we've not had even the population, the voters. I don't think even we understand what a political party is, because we've not experienced how a political party should operate. We don't know what it means to hold a political card. Okay, I don't know how many of us here actually do subscribe to any political party, or you actually ever seen like.
We are journalists. We try to be neutral, or we claim to be neutral.
I know, but when you go home to your uncles and aunties, do they actually hold political cards? They don't have membership. They don't belong because they don't even know. They don't even understand. They don't even appreciate. Why should they belong to a political party? What's the benefit of belonging to a political party?
Exactly.
Okay, if I belong to a political party, is there any protection that I get? Do I participate in a decision-making process? If I participate in a decision-making process, how far
Is my voice
is
respected?
my voice respected? That is all not answered. So because there is also that misunderstanding or lack of understanding generally within the population, within the voters, okay? Now, there's also there's no force to force these people who come up and then form political parties to actually organize it and say, as a party, this is what we stand for, this is our ideology. The Uganda People's Congress tried, like you've said, simply because they were in power. They were the ruling party. They had the power, they had the state resources, they had everything, which is what the ruling NRM is trying also to do. They're actually using state resources. They're not using party mobilized resources to actually build a political party. Okay. Now, because the political party and the state is one and the same, then there's no incentive actually for the NRM or for the UPC that was in power then to actually build a political party. Okay. Now, maybe it's time.
What explains
maybe
then?
It's time for us to go back, okay, on the drawing board and say, do we need a multi-party political system, or do we go back to actually the individual merit system? Because right now, what seems to be working for us is the individual merit system. Multi-party politics is not working in this country at all, because even the ruling NRM, actually, Agatha mentioned that Bobby Wine is an individual. When I interviewed one of the members actually of that organization, it's People Power.
It's an
It's not an organization.
It's not an organization. It's not even a movement. Okay, yeah, let's say people. Yeah. They said it's a survival tactic, because when you have people like the FDC that came, tried to form a structure and all that, then what the ruling political party did was go in there and try as much as possible to destroy the structure, try as much as possible to buy and win the people within this political party to your side. So they're saying we are trying to avoid this. Do not have a structure, do not have a command center, so that there is no point to hit.
Exactly.
Okay, and we can build something, and once we build something, then we can come out as a force and actually change this country.
But Barbara, just before I leave you, how do you form that elusive thing that doesn't have a central command, that can't be hit? It doesn't have a central secretariat. It doesn't have a command structure. When the opposition looked at beyond the organizations called political parties, is as disorganized, as fractured, as weak as it is. Because it's a question I've been asking. How do you wake up? This is 2018, November. We are going into November. 2019, 2020, 2021, you start the election process early in 2020. How do you create something called an opposition platform with an opposition that, rather than consolidate at this time, is fracturing even more? Rosbeth?
I think for me, what I observe is like, Winnie Mandela once said that I am the product of the masses of my country and I'm the product of my enemy, which at the time was the apartheid state. So a lot of the times political parties here are like the product, they show certain characteristics of the power they're trying to fight against. And when Barbara talks about how much people right from reform agenda, I know people who had to live in exile, people, because they were attached near Dr. Kizza Besigye and all those people, they lost a lot. That's why when you see players like Bobby Wine trying to avoid that system where they can actually pick everybody, although they have already started picking them even without a structure. They have tortured him and tortured the producers and musicians from support base, right? So how do you, the question is that they are trying to organize in a way that they would not have to. How do you not pay the price? Because the price is that we live in a country with highly personalized power. President Museveni has power in his hands. He has the military, he has everything on his disposal. And he has highly commercialized elections to the point that without money, you're not going to make it. He has made it super impossible that even if you tell people anything, or people at the grassroots, that they are going to, the chances of you actually coming without money to the people who are so impoverished, who want 500 shillings.
Would you have said that differently in 1980 when Milton Obote was in charge? 1980 to 1985.
I think when we see the euphoria of Uganda post-independence, we have to capture what was at stake at the time and what was the mood of the time. Ugandans had been shortly independent. They had certain dreams. We are living in a generation where we've been independent for 56 years, and it doesn't make sense to us. So we have different questions from the time. They could be similar questions we are faced with, but we actually come at a time with really having experienced so much and wondering 56 years.
Traumatized
we are
people.
so traumatized, and the president uses the trauma to keep us where he wants us to be. the president goes to the other day he was in my village telling people, oh, you did not vote this person, that's why you don't have services. When you have a president who openly tells people because they are different of opinion from him, therefore they can't access public services, then we are living in a different state, you know. So we are dealing with challenges of highly personalized power. In 1980, there were different competing parties. You could look at their weaknesses at the time, you know, being based on religion and all these kind of tribal undertones that were there. We are living at a time where we are seeing that we do not have anyone who can glue us together, you know. That's why you have Poa having a homecoming and the same headline saying you have 50 people, 60 people. But also you're like, these people, what do they bring? What is their agenda? What are they fighting for? Can we say we have leaders who can truly stand in front of us and say, I am the product of the masses of my people? That's the kind of leader we are looking for. And but for long we have elites who say, okay, of course they have a right opinion, but they come from Kampala, and once in a while you go to a village and see people. But I don't think we are yet there to we have organized right to the grassroots for different reasons, of course, for the political situation, but also for inefficiencies in political organization.
Just another 1 second. I think that's happening because also our political leaders are lost. They are actually not thinking for this country. No one is actually thinking for Ugandans. I am a political leader, okay? If I am a political leader, what is my aspiration? What's my dream for my community? What's my dream for this country? And how do I actually get the community to buy into these dreams, and then we run with it? Can we have someone who can rally the population?
Why do you think that matters?
No, it matters because you need to rally the population. Because once you have, like Roswell said, I'm the product of my people. Because then you share the aspirations, you share the dreams, and they are sending you to actually go and represent that. But right now, when we vote for leaders, do we even actually understand who the leaders are and why we are voting for them? And that explains why the poorest regions in this country votes for NRM religiously.
Yeah, I think just
because we just don't understand.
Just add from that same point, like the issue Roswell has raised, quoting Winnie Mandela. I think that's really the issue, the crux of the matter, because people have needs, they have aspirations. Like you say at independence, people say that, okay, now we're independent, we're going to decide for ourselves to do stuff. They have had all those expectations. Maybe they're probably not met, or met just halfway. Now, in the village, she has talked about the village people. Like you say, people cannot connect the connection between the leader and what they're supposed to do for the people. So the time right now is that people want jobs, people want better lives. So if someone comes and tells you, vote me, and then they give you, like in our villages, my village, someone gives out 5,000 shillings. Somebody has probably not interacted 5,000 shillings for the last 2 months, or even 6 months. They've never touched 5,000 shillings. Someone gives it to them.
Your village must be experiencing a lot of inflation. That's significant state progress. Because I have known situations. I've known situations whereby politicians will empty banks of small change and coins. So a coin of 500 shillings, 1,000 shillings, not. So 5,000 is given to the who is in that society.
The kingmakers.
Because there are rumors that in the last election, some candidates came and staffed the candidates in that area. That is Chua, I think, somewhere in Kitgum, Chua East. The rumors that the NRM candidate, who is the State Minister for Foreign Affairs, Kolorian, that he went to each household. I don't know how true it was, that they put below your door a bar of soap and 10,000 shillings. So I don't know, but that it may not be true.
Honorable Kolorian watches this show religiously.
Yeah,
if he's watching,
know.
He'll come and clarify.
I cannot say it's true. Those are rumors. Maybe there are also opponents raising such things. But the bottom line is that poverty and the circumstances of the people. People want, like, let me take the issue of the districts. Like some people always say that, okay, if the opposition should show us some model of leadership, in the opposition districts like Gulu, which are led by Jaram Penduzi, who's an NRM person, that how are those opposition leaders running those districts?
I thought he's FDC.
It's FDC. Yes, FDC. Yes, not NRM. Sorry, it's FDC. I don't know how that slipped. Mapenduzi is an FDC candidate and a very strong one. And you can say he has run Gulu fairly well, because I think the ratings by the Accord rate him highly. I think he has been, for the last 3 years, his ratings have been high. I think he has been one or number 2, followed by, I think, Wahinga or Kawarole, your area. So they are saying those opposition leaders, how are they managing their districts? Are services better? Is there less corruption? Is there efficiency in service delivery and all that? Maybe those models would help if you say, this is our area, we run this district well, this is what the opposition can do if you put us in power.
Agatha, I need to come back to you. If you look at the splits within the opposition, every political party in the opposition, even those that had the tiniest of membership and numbers, the Conservative Party never recovered from a split. One faction was led by John Ken Luchamuzi the man, the other by Nsubu Gansambu. And basically, if you looked for members of the CP, you wouldn't count them off one hand, especially at the national level. But they were split. So I don't know how many members belonged to John Ken's faction and how many belonged to Nsubu Gansambu's faction.
There were 2 versus 5, I think.
Yes, about that number.
Yeah. John Ken and the daughter, and then Sambu
And sons.
yeah. There were 2 versus 5. There
You
were
have,
both 2 versus 5.
then you have a split within the Democratic Party. One of those political parties that have endured from a very long time ago, still managed to survive, but Lord Mayor Arias Lukwago, Betty Namboze, and the others belong to one faction. Then President General, Norbert Mao, and the other group belong to a different faction. Before them, when you had, I was seeing on social media that he collapsed in church today, the former President General, Dr.
NTV did the story.
Dr. Paul Kawanga Semogerere was leading one faction. Francis Wenje was leading another faction. They'll never come to an agreement. But they're tiny and they're splitting. The Uganda People's Congress, everybody knows the problems it has had. From the time former President Apollo Milton Obote, who kept running the party from afar when he was still in exile. Since he died and then Mario Obote took over, you've had factions. There's one Olaro Tuno, there's one Jimmy Akena. The FDC now, you might say that FDC survived to a large extent the defection of Betty Kamya, who tried to create a political party that never really became a serious thing until she joined President Yoweri Museveni's cabinet. Now you have new formation emerging out of that. How do you, what kind of politics do you run in a system like that when the party that is in power continues to solidify when the others are scattering on their own?
But then you have a split which survived.
Which one?
FDC. Where did it come from? The majority of FDC.
NRM.
And you had NRM that is still standing, and you had FDC, a party that came and took over when there were parties that have been there for a while. So I think all this comes from the frustrations. Roseberry was saying so many things about how Museveni goes to, with impunity, to places and says, you don't have this because you voted opposition, which shouldn't happen. About how NRM is using state resources. So we know all these, we have lived with all these conditions for a while. And now I think you have people that are all trying whatever means available to try and change that. That's why you have Bobi Wine coming and saying, to avoid state infiltration, I'm not going to have structures. Which is also, you know, you can weigh both having structures and not having, because if you don't have structures, unless you're not going to run for an election, where are you going to get agents to protect your vote? So many things. And yes, we also know the disadvantages of having structures. And then you have Muntu, who thinks that structures are the way to go. Build structures, have people at every polling station protecting your vote. We have seen Dr. Besigye say every after election. And yes, we have also had our suspicions.
There was something called the P10.
Yeah.
Yes, that I won the election. But he has never claimed that election, like they call it. So everyone looks at those loopholes that we are looking at, and I think they try whatever means. If they don't agree on the means, they decide, let me pursue these means.
Ladies and Bernard, let me put it this way. When you have the emergence of people power, the emergence of new formation, you actually do not see evidence of growth of political position. You just have another outfit that has emerged somewhere.
But what do you mean? Political position may be organized in one place, but we have boxed ourselves in this corner. The idea that we have to belong to a party. I don't belong to a party. I will vote whoever I think appeals to my aspirations and whom I can believe in, whom I trust in. And we have not had a time where people can actually live free from violence. Every day there's violence. That people cannot be... People are afraid to attach themselves to another party when you have a president saying, I won't give you this if you vote this. So we have to look at a time where also we have younger people who do not necessarily feel the need to attach themselves in a political party. But they want to take part in the change of the country.
Do you envisage a discussion between Dr. Kizza Besigye, Bobby Wine, Mugisha Muntu, Chairman Mao?
I think Charles, even
before you go far, actually, Charles, that has been happening. But then also, this is not happening in Uganda alone. Let's look at the neighboring Kenya. Almost every election you have 2 or 3 new political parties.
And a new coalition.
A new coalition. Almost everything. It's just not in Uganda. And I think for us, it's just not maybe in our DNA to belong to a political party. Maybe we just want, maybe what we need as a country right now is to have a group of politicians or a group of let's say, civic leaders like Bobby Wine, because Bobby Wine has been able to mobilize because naturally he's just a civic leader and he's been doing that.
Also his work as an artist.
Now, maybe we need that, someone who can rally people, someone who can bring people together, okay, and then cause a change, and then after the change, maybe there will be a thinking towards formation of a political party.
What does it take?
Let me just speak from Barbara there. She referred to Kenya. I think Kenya, realize that Kenya, the way they're working is that, like, after every election, there's something formed. I think I would just maybe call it a special purpose vehicle for elections.
Exactly.
For elections, basically. Like right now, you get NAC in 2002. Then
you get the Orange Democratic.
The Rainbow Coalition.
Yes.
Then NASA, which is now crumbling. Now they're looking at
you have
something
NAS
else.
on one side, you have Jubilee on the other, you have NAC on one side, you have...
So I think the main, first of all,
at the moment,
what's the purpose of a political party? It is to take power. The tragedy with the Ugandan opposition is that I don't know what that thing, I don't know what's that one thing that stops them from uniting. The TDA process failed. IPFC in 1996, they tried to come up. Inter-party coalition in 2001. IPFC, that's 96, far away.
There was IPFC 1996, then there was IPC.
Then IPC in 2011.
Then the G7 after that.
Yeah, and then TDA, the last election 2016.
Yes.
Somehow, things start, then they crumble along the way. I don't know why because you see in Kenya, Moi used to beat those people by very small margins. If you look at what Kenneth Matiba and Rubia, all the other people got, it was more than Moi used to get to win the elections. Until they came up in 2002 and finally defeated Moi. After failing in 97, and even before that, they had failed to beat Moi. But when they finally united...
I think in 92, 97...
When Moi did stand, but his candidate, who is now the current president, Uhuru Kenyatta, who was like his person who was backing, is the one whom they defeated in 2002. So then Moi finally went. So what is it that's stopping from the Ugandan opposition? Because you see, political parties, like we've all discussed the challenges of parties in Uganda. The party being what it is, like the Labour in the UK, with structures, with systems working, nominating candidates, all that, we don't understand it here. Because we've discussed
but we have to see the kind of power that we are operating in.
Yes, the environment.
The advocate of organization and building of structures, which in this case is Mugisha Muntu. How far can his effort go?
Yeah, no, I don't think can go far. Personally, I don't think Mugisha Muntu can go far with that. Because Muntu, some people say Muntu's time is not now. They're saying the kind of things he wants to do. Because Semuju Uganda, one of the people in FDC, he likes saying that let's first remove the problem. Then we start talking about what Muntu talks about. Muntu says you should first have structure.
But they've been saying that and they haven't removed the problem.
But I think
I put a question to Agatha, please. Let's allow her to answer.
He's talking about one strategy that he's attributing to Semuju of saying let's first remove the problem. And you see, Muntu says you cannot remove the problem without
having structures.
Yes. So what follows what? And you can say we have tested the removing the problem ideology for the last how many years? And
without structure.
Yeah. And it brings me back to what I was saying. I don't think that the splitting, of course, is not good. I agree with you entirely. But I am thinking that it's not necessarily bad that if you have so many groups fighting the regime that we think is not serving us well, even if they are fighting from different stands, yes, still, if they are fighting, and that's what I think they believe they are doing, I do not agree with people who think people are separating because they are greedy, like they are saying they are greedy, they want power. There are people that stand, that when they know they even stand no chance, like Samuel Vega, those that would get 0% or something. But I think everyone wants to give Ugandans as many options as there can be.
Let me say this. Let me say this. You guys know a gentleman called Jaberi Bidandi Sali?
Yes, PPP.
What is he doing at the moment?
People's Progressive Party.
People's Progressive Party.
He's all
I think
yes.
No,
before he became frail and unwell, he created a political party called PPP.
People's Progressive Party.
People's Progressive Party. And to his credit. And people like Saddam Gaira, you have Robert Mugabe and others who are members of that PPP, political party. They moved across this country on their own very limited resources, conducted seminars, tried to recruit people, to train young people, to create, to build what you're talking about, structures, and have a party that comes from the grassroots.
Exactly.
How much PPP, how much progress PPP has made since it was created? Your guess is as good as mine.
Charles,
You have other political formations. You have you have a movement for democratic change. I don't know who it belongs to. You have a peasants independent party.
One run by Sarah Nambuya.
Yes, women and youth leadership something.
Uganda has about is it 36 registered political
Yes.
parties?
Now you have a number of registered political parties. There are those that genuinely have tried to go to the grassroots, recruit and create structures. They have died along the way. You can't track them. You can't trace them. There are those that have emerged and don't appear to have organized structures, as you say. Though FDC tried when it was being formed through reform agenda and even the merger with PAFO and with Chapa Karuhanga's NDF, National Democratic Front. All those were efforts at having some organizational structure. It hasn't delivered much result. So what should be the new thinking? We need to take a break, I'm afraid. And I'm going to take these two messages and then we'll take a break. The message is from Nteja Simo, who says, people power, Barbara, if it can't be hit, is it capable of heating? FDC had built the capacity to dislodge NRM, but greed and egos killed it. So if it can't hit, can it be hit? No, if it can't be hit, can it hit?
Yeah, it can.
Is it capable of hitting?
It can.
Then Tom Boyjana is watching us from Fort Portal, and he says, we have a mandate model, which is a mixture of individual merit and political alignment. That's the structure that this country runs on. Let's take a break. We'll discuss this a little bit and also discuss the security situation, especially in Greater Kampala, when we come out of the break. We'll be right back. You're still watching The Fourth Estate, and we're coming to the last segment. Michael Jesali is watching us from Masaka. Michael Jesali is actually a journalist.
Yeah. Veteran.
Yes, a veteran journalist, people are saying here on the show. Thank you. He says, you people, Bobby Wine has big representation in the villages across the country in form of his fans. As a musician, he has people, therefore, to guard his votes at polling stations. Do you guys believe that? What do you think? How do you respond to that? Bernard?
I don't know whether Michael Sali is. I think he's a very optimistic person, because I think for me Bobby Wine, I think the rise of Bobby Wine is largely credited to two factors. One, he already established himself as an artist, so he had already had a fan base. Then secondly, when he contested and became an MP, he became a politician. So that mix, he sort of like started from somewhere, like 50% already. He didn't have to build from nowhere. As to whether those people can guard Bobby Wine's votes, I'm not sure, because I think studies assuming that Bobby Wine would stand for president, maybe. I think that's what I would read from what he's saying. I don't even know whether Bobby Wine is ready to stand for president.
But if he does, do you think
if he does, yeah, I don't think like Agatha said here, it's about structures and people believing in you. I mean, FDC, which is an established political party, failed to have candidates in some places in this country.
But is it about people believing in you when we have widespread violence in an election?
Does a large fan base translate into a political network?
I don't know. I know many people who love Bobi Wine as a musician, and I've had many talk about that. When we are talking about his music, I say, no, actually, me, I never liked any of his songs. I like him as a musician. I mean, as a politician now.
So you like Bobi Wine the politician,
yeah,
not Bobi Wine the
yes,
musician?
and many will say, he's horrible as a politician. I like he's talented as a musician. So meaning that not everyone who loves him as a musician would support him or support his candidature. So I think he needs to build on that fan base that he already has.
I think at least it starts from somewhere.
Okay.
And
Rosbel, what's your...
I don't think it's only about fan base. There's so many factors. Like you've talked about his music and how people have followed his journey. Basically, he's grown in front of us, right? We can track where Bobi Wine began through his songs. You go online, then you can see the guy from Kambocha where he started. But he does not come across as the elite that we have had in power for so long and leading parties.
Thank you.
It really plays a very important role, but also his story. And we have a very young population who are looking for someone who is not from 1986.
Can I clarify? When I say I love him as a politician, I'm not saying he will be the best president. I love the fact that he has come and has rallied more people than any other politician has been able to rally. I think even considering the time he's been around.
It's a question of timing.
Yeah, the time he's been around. Maybe you can say even more than Besige. So that we can build on that and maybe change government.
Barbara, how do you respond to Michael Sali's optimism as Bernard put it?
You see, the Afrobarometer survey that's normally conducted, towards election. I think the last two survey reports that they released, the last one, you had 40% of Ugandans actually saying that they do not trust that a change will come through the current political system. They didn't actually trust that there's actually a political system right now. Now, if you have the 40% who are actually looking for something else to trust, who are looking for someone else to trust actually to bring that change, maybe Bobi Wine can then decide to use his fan base, people who love his music actually, to do something. The advantage Bobi Wine has, which Rosbel has mentioned, is that he's been around, okay? And for me, he's been around as a civic leader. As a civic leader is a person who rallies the society, a person who mobilizes the society towards a certain goal, towards a certain target, which is what he's been doing in the ghetto. Okay. Now, if he's ready
Sorry, I have a call online. I need to interrupt your submission so I can pick this call. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please. Your name and where you're calling from, sir?
Hello?
Hello, your name and where you're calling from, sir?
This is Acton. I am calling from Usoga.
Yes, please. Acton, how are you doing?
I am okay.
Go ahead with
Now, I think I don't clearly understand the elites of Uganda. I don't think that they're getting it clearly. They believe that people down there in the villages care about whether this is FDC, whether it's DP. For me, I see only two things. There are people who want Museveni to stay. In fact, it's not even NRM. The people who want Museveni to stay, and there are people who want Museveni to go. Now, the people who want Museveni to go wouldn't care whether you're coming from FDC, you're coming from DP, PPP, or anything. And therefore, whatever you're talking about, that if Bobi Wine does not have a party, he will have a problem getting people to protect his votes and everything, or that I don't believe. Because those people down there in the villages, even if it is far away, they don't see this as Bobi Wine's vote. They see it as their vote. Because probably they want Museveni going away more than even Bobi Wine wants it.
Anthony raised a very important point there. But we started this discussion focusing on Mugisha Muntu and his new formation. How does he fit in? Does he fit in? Anton, sorry, I'm told we lost you. We have another caller. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please. Your name and where you're calling from, sir?
I'm calling from Africa.
Yes, to hear
you. Yes. For me, I think Bobi Wine is on ground. Because like people know him, and even in our village, people can probably tell you that if Bobi Wine contest for president, they can vote for him. I do not know if they can protect him or vote for him if he can win. Then the other thing about the opposition coalition and the rest, From I do not like that because I have always followed the international politics. In Israel, there is a coalition in the government. It was after the election. In Germany, Angela Merkel is in a coalition. It was after the election. David Cameron was in a coalition. It was after the election. So if even here, at least what they can agree on is to win where they have strength, then they combine later. For example, he has already won in Kampala and Wakiso, but he has not been with an MP. It was only the 16 when he came with the MP in Kampala. That is my mistake.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, the discussion seems to be drifting to discuss a lot more Bobby Wine than Mugisha Muntu and the FDC and power. Ismail Musalado is watching us and says, Charles, thanks for finally having an all-journalists panel. Now I can say without fear that this is the real fourth estate. Thank you. Crispy Kaheri is watching us and says, maybe we need not tie ourselves straight-jacketed political parties per se, but rather have organized movements, have cause-based arrangements that bring on board a cross-section of political, economic, and social interests. Ugandan parties are interesting. They concentrate on poaching from one another rather than going out to fish for purely new, fresh membership. How shallow. Hello? 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 I think, yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from? Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. You're watching yourself on TV. I mean, you're listening to yourself on TV. Please turn off the TV. Let me take a message here from Bernard Mpeirwe. Bernard Mpeirwe says, the recent... Yes, hello? Hello? Please turn down the volume on your TV set. And then you can talk to us. Hello? Okay, Bernard Mpeirwe says, the recent rally in Soroti by the current FDC leader and his friend Dr. Kiza Besigye was to fool Ugandans that they were still relevant to Ugandans. They definitely had to do this from the home area of current FDC president for assured crowds. I highly doubt if they can still get such crowds if they moved to other regions of the country. Rest in peace, FDC, Bernard Mpeirwe. And then he says, tell Bernard that what is stopping Ugandan opposition from uniting is greed. Each party wants it all, which makes opposition no different from the NRM they are fighting. And Dr. Kiza Besigye yesterday emphasized this point. He said, the people have showed us what they want. It's us, the leaders, who are failing them. What did you make of that statement?
But I mean, why are the leaders failing the people? I thought the leaders represent the people.
Do they?
Now, for Besigye's case, I mean, do the leaders know what the people want? If they know what the people want, then what stops them from going to fulfill that the people want?
But do we make an assumption when we say that possibly the people know what they want?
Yeah, exactly. I think when we are trying to evaluate, especially what has happened for the last 15 years, sometimes we are too hard on ourselves because we are expecting so much change at the same time. We have come a long way. I remember as a student when Dr. Kiza Besigye first stood and nobody knew him. And no Ugandan was, a few Ugandans were out there to say we need a different take on our politics. And we've come a long way from 2001 in terms of awareness, citizen awareness of the sheer greed and corruption of the country and what the state means to them, how they are fleeced out of their own taxes. We did not have that much understanding and awareness, and we have to really know that we have to build on that, what is already there for people, because people have to demand this for themselves. We are not going to demand it for them. They will ultimately have to demand it for themselves so they can keep each leader in check. Otherwise, you're not best among the people.
Sorry, guys, I have a caller. Hello? 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 Please turn down the volume in the TV set. Sorry, we can't get that. Someone else is watching us and says, I'll reserve the name for a moment, says, I am also watching and agree with Ismail Ladu absolutely on this truly fourth estate. And the icing on the cake is to see 60% women representation on the journalist panel. We have come a long way.
Indeed.
Okay. Hello? Hello? That message I just read was from Charles Odongtho. He says, I'm also watching. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please. Your name, sir?
This is Stephen Nakasongola.
Yes, Stephen.
I like the program
Thank you.
and it has created awareness.
Thank you.
My comment is Ugandans need a change. But that change must be slowly taken in consideration that the new generation in today are still confused. And these guys respect their elders when it comes to elections. It is only that after elections, that's when people of Uganda begin to realize that they voted wrongly.
Mm.
And when you go back to the side of Bob Wine, I like him, but only the way he takes his things. He has not yet mobilized the majority vote of the elders, who will in turn educate the population, that's the youth, the children they are producing. I have been in long for so long in politics.
Mm.
And I've been an FDC supporter sometimes in several areas.
Where does it belong?
So, Stephen, I would have loved to hear from you what your take is on the developments within the FDC more than on what Bobby Wine is doing or not doing.
No, the problem with FDC is one.
Mm.
The top management of FDC, we have been in Mugisha Muntu, who has also shown greed, and they have brought in now a boy whom other regions are not welcoming him to head them.
Mm.
Which is a big problem in politics.
Okay.
I'm trying to read.
Because FDC has shown that for them they are in region.
Mm. But
which has created a big problem. Remember, in 2016 and then 2011, when we were voting, FDC had the majority vote in the north. But today, northern and eastern have surrendered back to Museveni, which is NRM.
mm.
Because the Baganda and the westerners refused to join the northerners in change government. Which is now a problem to come up with. It is making now easy to die completely natural death.
Stephen, you said you have been in the leadership of FDC. So
Yes.
when you say you have been in the leadership and then you say the FDC brought us, they brought, weren't you part of the decision making? Mm. Okay.
Because they are misleading us now who have been on the ground mobilizing the people.
Mm.
Yeah, we have been mobilizing the people, but when you go to Najana Kumbi, the way they could look at you a youth, they look at you a party a minute.
Okay, sorry, Stephen, we lost you. Gift from Nansana says, whether Uganda has political parties or not, whether they are functioning or not, if there is any group of Ugandans that have deliberately let Ugandans down, it's the elite group, including those Ugandans that you have in the studios. All that they have perfect on is sit in the comfort of their offices and living rooms, get to their Twitter handles, and label members of the opposition as half-baked and with poor strategies that favor Mr. Museveni. It's high time they actively join the struggle as opposed to mere lamentations on TVs and FM radio stations. Gentlemen and ladies, I want you to respond to this, including you.
Are we going to close
That's our way of contributing to the struggle.
But we actually contribute to the struggle right now.
I think this person raises an important point that says even when they implicate us about the political elite and distancing themselves from the politics and why we have to get in. I do vote as a person, and I do my civic duty to inform, because we all cannot be on the street or cannot be in a council. But really, I think political elite, when we said not political elite, the elite people who are comfortable, you want to go to Javas, have your chips and chicken and never vote and never. Really, you have a lot of people like that, and they go back and they say you're doing bad. But I don't think that what is happening on this station is a takedown of opposition. It is to help the opposition see their mistakes and come back stronger.
I'm keen that we move on, and I hope Rosberg represents the majority of the people on the table here. Gift for your information, every election, I'm registered to vote in Fort Portal, and I go back and vote. and I come back and do my work, and we have the discussion.
No, for them
like we do
that's
here.
not enough.
Yes,
On the
no,
streets,
we have the discussion here, but for a majority of the
Charles,
citizens,
there's also
the
something you
responsibility should
mentioned.
be to cast your vote, but also to hold leaders accountable.
Accountable, yes.
Whichever way you're able to do that, you should be able to do that. So this condemnation of the elite sometimes is unfair, though there are a lot of elite who are social media warriors. They
Not only social media, they're only even social, they're not even there.
yes, I have asked when there were demonstrations, people are being beaten up on Ginger Road. No, at Constitution Square, and people are busy enjoying their beer on Ginger Road.
No, but
Gentlemen,
when Kawara was being beaten, people were busy laughing.
watching.
That, for me, that was so sad.
Well, they couldn't confront the guns, maybe.
That one would say maybe it was dangerous situation.
No,
Yes.
But I think the
so
most
sad.
important
Why
thing
do you
is
laugh?
people really
What's
need to
so
go out and vote.
funny
You see, like
about
in
it?
Kampala, for example, for a long time, the issue was that Sebagala was winning because the people who were voted people from the so-called, they call them unwashed of society. Because you see, everyone has their work. Some people are lawyers, others are journalists like us here. The most important thing in civic duty is you need to vote. Then after you voted, what happens? And if a person is in power, for example, they normally pin the list of budgets of some districts. People don't even know what they're pinned up. You're supposed to follow up and see, this man was allocated to my road. Where has it gone?
Bernard and the ladies, I'd like us to end this show on a sad note. The unending insecurity in Kampala, there was another murder. Actually, unlike many other murders, the thugs cut the razor wire on top of the building, scaled the walls, jumped inside, killed the dog that was guarding, and broke into the house. Yes, killed 2 dogs, 2 or 3 dogs.
2.
Yes, got into the house and hacked a man dead
Nigeria.
when his wife was watching. Just here in Nigeria. President Museveni has written about it, has fired off another social media missive to Wazukulu and other Ugandans on this state of insecurity. Do you feel he provides you the answers that you need? Because he goes back a little bit into creating the division, ordinary criminals like these ones and political political criminals. Do you think his latest communication, they have started patrolling, I think, in those areas of Nigeria, reintroducing, the Monitor reported the other day, reintroducing roadblocks and patrols. And there was the CCTV cameras, the recruitment of LDUs. Do you feel confident that answers are being provided or action is being taken in a manner that will actually rein in this?
I think, Charles, these incidents are becoming too many, and they're really sad. Because, like, up to now, we don't yet. Okay, some people were charged in court over the Nansana women. Women were murdered, about 25 of them in a space of about 4 months. So I don't know whether we really got real answers from those murders of the women in Nansana. And then now this wave of murders, people are arrested by unknown people. So I personally, I feel relatively, I don't know whether I could say I feel safe, but we're in a situation where you're not sure. People are being mugged at their gates. People are being, now people are even being killed inside their houses as their relatives are watching. It's really sad. I don't know whether the president has provided enough answers, but me, I doubt. As for the cameras, I think the cameras, they were approaching them in such a way that we want to know what happens after the event. But I think we should focus on before the event. Because these cameras are going to help us to find out who killed the other person, not stopping. Because I thought the camera is supposed to see the person in the camera, then you follow up the person.
To be fair,
and
he's
arrest them
assuming
before.
that one who killed one person is the same one that will kill the next. So if you
Well,
arrest them,
the world over,
really
this
very
technology
sad.
that is being deployed. But Agatha, I'd
We
like
need really serious.
to bring it to you.
We need real work.
The areas of this city that have been bedeviled by this insecurity almost permanently. Nigeria has been mentioned for a very long time, and people have been killed. This is not the first murder to take place there. But you've had these shifting hotspots of murder, of a lot of insecurity. And you wonder sometimes whether the government and the people in authority are providing the answers that we need.
No, they are not. They are not, because we've seen these missives from 7 for how long now?
I think this one is the 6th missive in about.
Yeah, but they go. Kawesi was murdered, and he comes and says swines, pigs, and he keeps saying things of we shall catch them, we shall catch them. We have not seen anyone caught, and you are sure this is the person that kills. Instead, murders keep happening. And me, on the issue of insecurity, it personally touches me because I have gone through it a lot of times. Recently, a friend of mine was telling me about someone who was attacked at Naguru, just opposite the police headquarters. And he was telling me that what shocked me was this guy was saying the same thing you told me when I was attacked and I went to cheer out police. And I started to explain what happened. All the police women and men came and said, that place, they killed someone there, they attacked someone there, it's a hot spot. So they know the problem, but they have not resolved it. So this person wanted to even write about it and say, how bad has it become that someone is attacked right in front of police headquarters? So I think that goes a long way to show how bad the political situation is, the security situation is in this country. And many people have been saying, which makes a lot of sense, that for a long time, Museveni, his government, and security operatives paid a lot of attention on political intelligence and forgot about crime. And people used that as, it was okay for people to go and steal. We have excuses of unemployment and all that, to go and steal because they know they'll get away with it. People are paying more attention on the other side than the most important side. And I think that by the time Museveni and his people woke up to know that it has gone out of hand, it had already gone out of hand, and it will not just take a reshuffle here and there to resolve it. It might take a while for us to get back to normal situation.
I think we have a very big challenge with our security system. We have for long outsourced security from ragtag outfits, which come and kidnap somebody, disappear this person. So the insecurity we have cannot be divorced from the state-funded insecurity, where we see kidnaps of people, shootings of people in their homes, and when people being found in CMI, after many months of search, their people don't know. And so that cannot be divorced from the attacks we are seeing on people's gets, because on one hand, they've created this insecurity that anybody can come and threaten you. And you will say, oh, maybe they have connections to someone in CMI. You easily give in many times. The people will threaten you, whether on phone, whether on this feeling of being insecure that we are feeling is very much related to the security system.
Rosabel, you raised something very interesting. We're driving some day on the northern bypass, and then comes this convoy with a siren, a lead car, siren, scaring everybody off the road. And then he looks back, he said, but by law, how many people are supposed to have a lead vehicle and push people off the road because they want to arrive somewhere where it is where they think it's they have more important business than the rest of us ordinary mortals. And then you look through, and the car that has a siren is actually civilian registered. And I'd refuse to give way. And then there are people, I don't know if they are security of some sort, and they're hurling insults and warning you to get out of the way. And I'm saying, wait a minute. How many times am I going to keep giving way to everybody? Everybody, important or unimportant, wants you to keep giving way, which is the same thing about when you get threats and you don't know. Barbara, I'm coming to you, but let me take a couple of messages and then we'll get out of here. Patrick Robongoya is watching us and says, you have misunderstood the gentleman's message. The elites on TV and FMs usually condemn the opposition as power-hungry and poor strategists, including you could make better organizers. Yet you do nothing beyond your unending commentary as if you were onlookers and passers-by to the affairs of the country. I need you to cue that for a moment. Henry Mutebe has sent a fairly long message. Henry, I hope I can be able to read all your message. He says, Uganda does not have a critical mass that is needed to achieve the change you want. Most people in rural areas are not aware of where they are, where they want to be, and what they need to do. If you want to understand an average Ugandan, watch Agatali Komfufu and see the kind of issues that ordinary people are bothered about. In villages, people are concerned about two issues, land and women. On those two, they will pick a panga and cut in two pieces anyone who pushes beyond their boundaries. You people in Kampala are the ones dreaming about being like London. Your dreams are too big for the village folks to imagine. For many people, Uganda seems fine and they see no problem. People in villages are comfortable, and their dream is to come to Kampala. In fact, they view Kampala as heaven-like. There is a difference in appreciation of what matters the most. Until you Kampala people go back to the villages and start from scratch to teach about the basics, like not marrying another woman because you have had a bumper harvest, or not bewitching another because their neighbor is successful, the elections will always return the same results. People in villages are very happy as long as they can marry more than one wife, and as long as you don't touch their land. The way to go is still long. Henry Mtebe in Kampala. Barbara, I want to finish with you on the state of security, especially in Kampala metropolitan area.
Okay, for me it's difficult, it's personal, because Dora, the wife to the late Archie, is my cousin. Yeah, Dora, you know, and it's really sad, yeah, what actually happened to them. But there's a common signature to what's happening right now. And this common signature, for me, points to two actors. There's the states, and then there are the individuals. The individuals who have taken advantage of of the loopholes within our security system, the individuals who have taken advantage of the corruption within our security system, the individuals who have taken advantage of the cross-pollination between police and the army. And now, because of that, they are, you know, they go and attack people, they go and do this and all that. But like Agatha and Roosevelt said, it's not the many letters by the president that will actually solve this problem. We've heard them say that we need the national ID, the SIM card registration, the cameras, and everything. So I think the challenge right now is, how do we then get all this to work together to actually solve the problem we have right now? How do we get this to work together beyond the fights within the security system? Because we have the fights that's happening right now. And the fights that's happening right now, it's about who gets the ear of the president, then gets the money the budget that you will not account for. You'll eat the money, you'll do the money with whatever you want, and you'll not account for it. That's what the fight is all about. So now, how do we solve the corruption within the security system? How do we solve the incompetencies within the security system? Because like Agatha said, they've never actually conclusively investigated the murders, the killings. And let's not look at only all these political killings and all that. But even people like, was it Radio, the musician who died? He died in, and no one will tell you. We don't know what happened to him.
Thank you very much. We need to get out of here. Time is out. Bernard Mpairwe, let me start like this. I actually don't agree with you, even before I read your message. Bernard Mpairwe says, to me, most of the brutal killings that are happening are intended to undo the NRM government's credit on security. Opposition have to do all it takes to discredit NRM since they have failed to do it on the ballot paper. But I think it's views like this, politicizing everything, that is part of the problem in this country. Because you haven't had a murder, like Barbara says, that it's one thing for either the former IGP or the president to tell you, or to parade people, whether by CMI or ISO, to say these are the killers, or that Katerega, we believe, killed Kirumira, and he was also killed. It's important to tell Ugandans what the motive was. Because murder without a motive is no murder. You wouldn't call it, it wouldn't qualify as murder. It would have some other name. If you don't tell people this is the investigation, these are the people who are responsible for the crime, and this is why they committed the crime. In the case of Archie Ruego, it would be important for Ugandans to know this was a robbery gone wrong. This was an intended hit because of reasons A, B, C, D. But you don't have those answers for the women who were murdered. You don't have those answers for the people who washed up that one New Year's Day at the lake, on the beach. You don't have those answers.
18 people.
Yes, 18 people. You don't have those answers for the assassinations that we have seen in the country. You're only told, we think these were ADF. Why are ADF killing people? Why does ADF choose Kawesi, choose Kirumira, choose Joan Kagezi, choose Abega, choose someone else? those are political explanations, Bernard, in all honesty, that I think distract the country from discussing the more important things that as a country should be bringing us together on the question of security and on the questions of how this country can transform itself and develop. Our time is out. Thank you very much, Bernard Oponya, for making time for the show. Thank you very much, Agatha Atwede, for making the time for the show. Thank you very much, Rosebel Kagumiri. Thank you very much, Barbara Among, and thank you very much to you all our viewers. The phone is still ringing off the hook. I'm afraid we can't, we are unable to take all your calls. We're going to bring this show to an end at some point, and I thank the production crew that stay up late to deliver the show to you. From me, it's a good night, and have a wonderful week ahead.